Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Welcome to another episode of Women's History Month, hashtag Choose to Challenge, with our special guest, Shari Alyse. Shari, how are you doing?
I'm doing so well. Nice to be here with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. To our listening audience, I'm Luana Brown. I'm the visionary and co-founder of Celebrate You, Women Embracing Wellness. And we are here to talk about not only Women's History Month, but what it means to hashtag Choose to Challenge. But before we get started, I want to turn it over to Shari. And Shari, just tell the audience whatever it is that you want to know about, you want us to know about you and what's happening in your world.
Thanks so much for the opportunity. So just a little bit about me. I'm an author of the best-selling book, Love Yourself Happy. I'm also a motivational speaker, and I am a joy coach. And the work that I do specifically is with women and girls who have experienced trauma in their lives, and I help them to find their voice, their self-worth, so we can reclaim our joy. So that's where my heart and my passion is.
I love that. And I'd like us to sit there for a minute, because we're hearing a lot about people focusing on the joy factor or the happiness factor. Can you tell us a little bit about how did you uncover this as being your passion in life?
Well, I spent many years, not really understanding what that was. I had experienced at a young age childhood trauma myself, having been sexually abused at a young age. And a lot of times with trauma survivors, or mostly with trauma survivors, we spend a lot of time disconnected from ourselves. And when you disconnect from yourself, you're always seeking connection. And because you feel some sort of loss or ache within. And so we seek it through external validation, whether it's through accomplishments or relationships, material things, always just looking for that sense of fulfillment, which a lot of people call happiness. And I spent decades doing that as well. And one day, after being completely exhausted of finding it, and then it's slipping through the fingers again, I ended up finding this journey back towards myself. And in finding myself, I found my joy, because joy is different than happiness. And joy is, for me, in being the full expression of ourselves. And sometimes that's not happy. Joy to me means being able to live the full human experience.
I love that. And that so aligns with what Celebrate You is all about. And we believe that when a woman is able to, as you said, celebrate who she is fully and completely, then we can start to make impact and change and ripple effects around the world. But we first have to start within, right?
Absolutely. That is where everything lies, where all of our answers lie. But we're always so busy looking outside of ourselves, wondering why I can't feel a certain way or step into my fullness and my wholeness. And it's because we are not connected truly to ourselves.
I love that. So let's talk about Women's History Month. And what does it mean for you to celebrate not only what has happened in the past and, again, the shoulders we stand on, but celebrating women today?
Well, I grew up in a household of very strong women, both in my house. I say household, but I just mean my family. And so I never grew up with you know what I'm trying to say, between like a woman and men, in terms of like, I never felt personally that I couldn't do certain things, because I was always taught you could do anything you want. At the same time, I was also aware as I got older that the same opportunities weren't always available to us, or they were disguised in a way. It was that you weren't qualified enough. You didn't have this or you didn't have that, but it was never obviously said it was because you were a woman. And although I was told growing up that I had all these opportunities, I also used to hear my mom talk about, being passed over for a job that she was definitely qualified for. It was always a man. And so as much as the words were said to me that, we can do anything we want, I also was, aware enough to understand that it didn't always go that way. And at the same time, Luana, having been a victim of, I never see myself as a victim anymore. I'm a thriver. but of childhood abuse, and I actually got on a witness stand at 7 years old.
Wow.
I was surrounded by very dominant men in the courtroom and feeling actually victimized on that witness stand. So a victim again. And so for me, International Women's Day and just honoring ourselves for me is always just about honoring our voices, being able to speak up, being able to hold space and take up space in this world. And I do that every day, and I encourage women to do that every day, but having a month about it, I mean, it should be every day, but having a month really, I'm really grateful as to have that, and that people actually, the attention, it feels like it just keeps getting stronger and stronger and bigger this month.
Yeah, I agree. And it's amazing because it is literally globally, women are being celebrated. And as you said, it's making sure our voice is heard. And I love what you said. It's about showing up and being seen, demanding to be seen, right? Not relegated to a corner and dismissed.
Right. Asking permission, can I, is it okay? And now it's more like, it feels almost expected, like, especially with having Kamala, in the White House, it's like, I don't know, there's just so much upliftment right now, it feels like. And I'm like, yes, it's about time.
I so agree. Now let's talk about the hashtag choose to challenge. And as you said, in your personal experience, you have triumphed over adversity, and you work with individuals to do the same, to peel back those layers of shame and pain, and come out, this as this beautiful rose that they were created to be. Mm-hmm. What does choose to challenge mean to you when you hear it now being said?
It was interesting because when I saw that it was the theme this year, for me, I didn't find, so I've always spoken up and I help others speak up, but it's often was about, the traumas that I've experienced, and then the people, the women and girls who have experienced the same thing. But I truly found, I feel my activist voice last year after the George Floyd murder and really getting involved in the Black Lives Matter movement. And I began challenging the way that things were seen, and specifically as white woman and just white people in general. I was challenging the status quo. And it was a very uncomfortable time to do that, although I'm not making it about me, but on a personal level, it was challenging to step up in a space that, a lot of people didn't want to talk about. So when I saw that it was choose to challenge, I was like, for me, challenge was about just awareness, bringing attention to something and I stayed away from the activist movement for a long time because I didn't feel like I knew enough. I didn't have enough facts, and I didn't have enough intelligence around something. Right. But then I realized, no, if we just start talking about it, that's how you move the needle forward.
Exactly. And I love what you said. I mean, we all go through our lives where we're exposed to something, whether it's, inequities, injustice, the little guy, we if we're in a position to where we can exercise our position, our finances, our resources, our voice to help bring awareness, to bring change, then I think once that awareness is known, we have that responsibility to do so. Otherwise, we can become complicit if we just say, well, let someone else handle it. Right.
Or it's not about me. Right.
Yeah.
I've often said, it's not, there's nothing I can do about it. And it's so important to just keep using our voice. And that's what I think Choose to Challenge is about.
I love that. And I always tell people sometimes people are like, well, I can't, what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to go to Congress or wherever. It's like, no, start at your kitchen table, having conversations with friends and family.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what it was for me. And that's what I realized, like, if I just started talking about it and we just said, I don't know what to say, but having the conversation, that is the beginning. And that, that's what's most important, the start of it.
Yes, I love that. So staying a little bit on the political side, when we think about this year is the 101st anniversary of women's right to vote here in the U.S. We received the right to vote in 1920. or I should say legislatively, women received the right to vote, but we know that it was only white women who actually were able to exercise that right because just again, by being the United States, states could dictate who was able to go to the polls or not. But the one part that I find is often missing in our history is we give the account of the suffragettes, but we forget all the women who were girding them up, the African American women, the Asian American, the Native Americans, and the Hispanic American women who were there rallying around. So we talk about today being collaborative and lifting each other up and supporting each other as women. So thinking about that, what happened back then, how can we use the lessons learned of how those women work together for the common good? How can we do that today to advance and move the needle of change?
Whew, that's a big question. Nothing small there. I think it's all just about listening and holding up. So right now, what's happening with the Asian American community, I think as women, knowing that what we have all struggled with to get here, that we have to stop looking at each other as separate, whether it's in different racial communities, ethnic communities, and just to see each other as women, knowing that it's taken a really long time for us to get here. So we all need to, again, speak up and use our voices, whether we get it, whether we understand it, whether we've experienced it or not, just believing and supporting each other and standing shoulder to shoulder. Because right now, I don't understand everything that the Asian community has gone through, but I hear their voices and I'm going to be a part of lifting their voices. So I think we can do that as women.
Yeah, I love that. When we were hearing things that were happening, against the Asian community latter part of last year and into early part of this year. And then I'm in Atlanta, and then what we experienced last week, I thought, okay, enough is enough. How much more?
Right. Absolutely. And what I found interesting is just the way, and I'll be totally transparent, when I think of, and when I've often thought about racism, it was always black and white. I honestly didn't, and Native American even, but I didn't take into consideration or really thought thoroughly about all that was happening in those other communities as well. And that's where I have to do better. And that's what I'm committing to do better, is to educate myself about what's happening in all communities as much as humanly possible.
Yes.
Yes.
And be willing to have the conversations when they come up, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And so that's how I just see us just supporting each other as women in all communities by using our voices.
I love that. Now, this is my favorite part of the interview. And I'd like you to just tell us about the woman who most impressed you in your life, as much as you'd like to share. The floor is yours.
Well, it's interesting because I have two women in my life that have, but I will go with the one who gave me life, which is my mother. And I share that because although we have our differences, of course, we all have our differences. My mom for me was always an example right from the beginning on how to keep showing up in the midst of adversity, in the midst of not feeling like it most of the days. My parents were divorced, and they've been divorced since I was 2 years old. And so I've just always known her as my main caregiver. And, as I got older and I'm able to see from hindsight and with a different type of emotional intelligence, I can see what she went through, and I could see the challenges. I know the challenges, as a woman now. And I don't have children. So to have seen how she showed up for us in the midst of her own pain, in the midst of her own struggles, in the midst of her own challenges, and still show up for us every single day, whether it was pretty or not, she was there. And I grew up feeling supported, and I grew up feeling loved, and I grew up feeling like I could do anything. And for me, being able to provide that for someone when perhaps you didn't feel that for yourself, I think is an inspiring and phenomenal woman.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So your mom poured all of this into you. She inspired you. She encouraged you. She exhorted you. She loved you. How do you translate all that into the powerful work that you're doing?
Well, the most important thing that I do is that I give that to myself every day, because I cannot give that out to the world or one person if I'm not doing that myself. So the work that I do is to help people have more love for themselves. And that in turn, like I said, creates a more joy-filled life. And so it translates, because what I saw, to be honest, now as I look back, is that she didn't give that all to herself, which is why she was exhausted and she had all this, but she gave it. And so I now know that in order to show up fully, in order to show up as, with the gifts that I have and be able to give them, I have to give that to myself. And that the fact that I do that every day, now I'm able to share that with others and show them how to do it.
I love that. So taking care of yourself first, and then reach out to the world.
Yes, that's it. That's it. Otherwise, I'll feel resentful. I'll feel drained. I'll get burnt out. And I'll always feel like I need from other people in order to keep me going. And I want to be able to appreciate and enjoy you for who you are without needing anything from you.
I love that. One of the things that I always say is you can't pour from an empty cup.
That's right.
And as women, we try to do that, right? But
we try to do it all. And we do, we most often do, but we often don't then feel great about ourselves.
That's so true. So before we close, I want you to leave a lasting golden nugget for our listening audience, and then to tell them how they can reach you, if you have any new programs that they can sign up for. And also, I'd like you to bring your book forward so we can see how we can get a copy of that as well.
Okay. So I guess something that I would love to leave with everyone listening is to just be gentle with yourself. I think that's the most important thing that we can do, because, there will be guaranteed challenges in life. We are going to have disappointments. We're going to have letdowns. People are going to show up in ways that we wish that they showed up differently. And, it's not always going to be easy, but if we can create and cultivate a gentle, kind, and loving place within ourselves, then no matter what happens on the outside world, we can navigate more connected, more whole, and more loving.
Love that. Love that.
And thank you. And everyone can connect with me. I'm all over social media, but the best way to be able to find me then is just to go to my website, and that's sharyalyse.com. And they can grab my book. It's called Love Yourself Happy, A Journey Back to You. And this is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble online.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Shari, for choosing to be a part of this. I am just so excited for people to meet you, hear your inspiring message. And ladies, listening audience, young women, get this book. Learn how you can live and love yourself happy. Understand how to be your true, authentic self and to speak from your voice of truth. And Shari is the one to take you there, right?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Luana. It's been a pleasure. And I look forward to thank you for doing this series.
Thank you so much. And again, ladies, as we always say, love yourself, embrace yourself, and whatever you do, always celebrate you. Until next time. Thank you again, Shari.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.